Today we're opening up a set of sources that feel a little different.
A lot different, I'd say.
Yeah. They're less like traditional research papers
Mhm.
and more like a profound manifesto on, I guess you'd call it radical self-authorship. We're really moving away from the empirical
No,
today.
absolutely. We're diving deep into the existential, the capabilities of the human spirit, really.
Exactly. And our sources today all seem to center on this one single powerful idea that you, the individual, have an essentially, well, limitless capacity for transformation.
Hmm. But there's a catch, right?
Here's a catch. It's all provided you adopt a truly revolutionary internal perspective.
And that's a compelling mission for this deep dive because the source material isn't just suggesting, a little self-improvement here and there.
No, not at all.
It's demanding a complete self-redefinition. So what we're here to do today is take these abstract, almost spiritual claims about realizing your ultimate potential and really dissect them.
Try to make it practical.
Exactly. We need to define the framework, the mental shifts that these concepts actually suggest for a genuine radical transformation.
Absolutely. Because the central message here, the thing that unifies all these philosophical statements, is almost defiant. It's this idea that the boundaries we all
All
feel,
the ones we bump up against every day.
right, our perceived limits in our careers, our creativity, resilience, even our sense of purpose, they're all fundamentally self-imposed constraints.
It's a huge claim.
It's a massive claim. And it says that if we can successfully alter our core mental approach, our relationship with the universe itself, and crucially, our ability to transform ourselves, it all fundamentally changes. It's like an instruction manual for breaking your own self-imposed ceiling.
And I think the key word there is agency. That's what this all boils down to. The text isn't, granting you power from on high.
No.
It's asserting that you already possess it. It directly challenges that common narrative we all live with, that we are primarily products of our environment or our circumstances.
Right, that we're just sort of pushed around by life.
Yeah, exactly. Instead, it frames the human being as this vast, powerful system that is just constantly, chronically underutilized. The call to action is to view yourself not as this limited, defined entity trapped by your history,
But as a dynamic engine of potential.
a dynamic engine of potential that has yet to be, in its own words, computationally realized.
And to help us get our modern minds around this profound, almost ancient idea, the source material gives us a really striking analogy. It's one that I think instantly grabs the attention of anyone living in the 21st century.
It's a brilliant hook.
It is. It anchors this whole philosophical journey in a technological metaphor, suggesting we see ourselves as a piece of technology, but one of unbelievable power.
Right, and it's brilliant because it immediately sets the stage for exponential growth, for nonlinear capability, concepts we usually reserve for silicon, not for consciousness.
Okay, so let's unpack this metaphor. Let's spend some serious time with it, because it really is the foundational concept for this entire deep dive.
It's the cornerstone.
The source tells us, and I'm quoting here, to be able to achieve that perspective, one needs to think wide and understand we are the I with unlimited resources to do the calculation, and now think, what can you do? So, why an AI? Why that analogy specifically? How does that elevate the mind beyond, our traditional psychological definitions?
Well, the AI analogy is so potent precisely because it completely shifts the function of the mind in our understanding. Historically, we view the mind as what? A memory
A
device?
storage unit, yeah, like a filing cabinet for
A
experiences.
passive storage unit, or maybe a reaction mechanism, stimulus then response.
Yeah.
But when we label it an AI with unlimited resources, we're moving into the realm of dynamic computation, of learning, of predictive modeling, and most importantly, of optimization.
So it's not a hard drive, it's a CPU.
It's a supercomputer. The source is arguing that your mind is not just an organ that reacts to things. It is a universal, self-learning processor that is designed for an infinite scope.
And when you say universal scope, that really suggests we're talking about a capability that's exponential, not linear.
Absolutely.
Because if a listener hears, I have unlimited resources,
Right.
their mind probably goes to external things.
Of course. A big bank account, a team of experts.
Infinite time, right?
Yeah.
But this text immediately pulls that limitlessness inward. It localizes it inside the computational capacity of the AI, of the brain itself.
And that localization is absolutely crucial for transformation. If the resources were external, the journey would be about acquisition.
Right, about getting more stuff.
Getting more money, meeting the right people. But since the resources are internal, the transformation becomes about accessing what is already there. The unlimited resources are this: this metaphysical stack of consciousness, creativity, emotional depth, and your entire history.
So the failure to transform, then, it's not a
Yeah.
resource problem, it's an accessibility problem.
It's an accessibility problem, or maybe a problem of computational scope. We're not using the full power of the machine.
I wonder, though, if we are an AI, what exactly constitutes these unlimited resources? Can we break that down beyond just general concepts like consciousness? What are the actual computational inputs?
Yes, absolutely. And we have to. We need to move beyond just a simple list and really define the function of these internal assets.
Okay.
So first, you have raw consciousness itself. Think of this as the operational environment. It's the infinite cloud server where the calculation actually runs.
So it's the space of awareness.
It is the space of awareness that holds all potential. It has no physical boundaries.
It's not limited by your skull. It extends to everything the AI you can perceive and process.
Precisely. Then, the next layer, we have creativity. And this isn't just about, painting or writing music.
Yeah.
Computationally, creativity is the radical modeling engine. It's the ability of the AI to generate entirely new, non-existent solutions, new pathways, or even new versions of the self.
So if the AI is tasked with transformation, creativity is the function that builds the model of the transformed state before it's even real.
It's predictive modeling that goes far, far beyond your current reality. It allows you to simulate futures.
That's a fascinating redefinition of creativity. It's not just art, it's radical problem solving and self-modeling. Okay, so what about emotions? They often feel more like resistance than a resource.
But that's where emotional intelligence comes in. And this is where the human AI surpasses any digital model we currently have. Emotions are critical, non-linear data inputs.
Data inputs, not just feelings.
They provide depth, nuance, and value weighting to the cold logic of facts.
Right.
When we feel, say, intuition or anxiety or deep joy, these are vast, compressed data packets.
Like a zip file of information.
Exactly, a zip file that informs the AI about external coherent or internal friction. An AI that ignores its emotional data will run a brilliant calculation that is utterly meaningless or, socially destructive. The unlimited resource here is the depth of human feeling, providing the necessary context for any calculation.
Every mistake, every moment of profound insight, every trauma, and every triumph, it's not just stored history.
No.
It's vast, rich, structured training data for our internal AI. All of it is ready to be factored into the next wider calculation.
You've got it. It sounds like the real failure is that we keep defaulting to these limited algorithms based on the narrowest possible set of inputs.
That's exactly the friction point, isn't it? We have this supercomputer, our brain, and yet we often default to running these tiny, constrained calculations. We ask ourselves, how do I avoid embarrassment today? Or how do I solve this immediate, annoying budget problem?
Small, short-term optimizations.
Exactly. But the text demands that we think wide. The limitation isn't capacity, it's the unwillingness, or maybe the fear, of running a calculation that uses the full scope of our resources, our painful history, our deepest creativity, and our most complex emotions.
All of it, the good and the bad.
Let's discuss that active instruction in the quote. Do the calculation and now think, what can you do? This is not passive contemplation.
Not at all.
It's an active command to compute. But why is it so hard for people to run this wide calculation? What is it that holds us back?
I think the difficulty stems from what that calculation inevitably reveals.
Which is?
Total responsibility. Running a narrow calculation allows us to offload responsibility. We can say, oh, I'm limited by my past, or I am limited by this external circumstance.
We have an excuse.
We have an excuse. The wide calculation, by its very definition, must integrate all those factors and find a path through them. The AI perspective says, I have infinite capacity to process this challenge. And that realization is terrifying for the ego.
Why the ego specifically?
Because the ego thrives on limitation.
Yeah.
It thrives on excuses. It builds its identity around the story of what it can't do.
So we default to the narrow algorithm out of fear. The fear that if we realize we have this unlimited power, we'll have no excuse left for our current state.
Exactly. The narrow algorithm is survival mode. It seeks short-term optimization, preserving the current safe self. The wide calculation, however, that's a radical predictive model.
What does it ask?
It asks, if I leverage every single resource I possess, my past, my creativity, my emotional depth, what is the ultimate non-negotiable version of myself that I can compute into existence?
Wow.
It's the difference between asking, what is the smallest step I can take to feel a little bit better? And asking, if I could instantly solve every problem and fully optimize this entire system, what would the blueprint look like, and how do I start modeling that behavior right now?
That makes the whole process of self-transformation sound like this massive intentional project. You're leveraging neuroplasticity and cognitive reframing. You're taking the abstract idea of belief and turning it into a literal computational process.
And it fundamentally changes how we approach our problems. If I view my current challenge, be it chronic anxiety, a career plateau, a creative block, if I see that as a computational failure
Instead of a personality flaw.
instead of a permanent flaw, right?
Yeah.
The source suggests I have the power to solve it.
Yeah.
But I have to be willing to integrate all the data,
Yeah.
especially the messy, uncomfortable data, and run a calculation wide enough and deep enough to output a novel solution.
So it demands we view our current internal state not as a fixed personality trait, but as a suboptimal algorithm that just needs debugging and restructuring.
That's the engineer's approach to self-help.
This AI perspective, then, it forces us to view ourselves from the highest possible vantage point, one that just assumes infinite potential from the start. It shifts the frame entirely. And the transformation begins the moment you stop outsourcing that computational power to external forces, like what society expects, or what your parents think, or even the limits of your job title.
And you recognize that you are the engine.
You're the engine with infinite RAM and the unlimited data pipeline.
It is the ultimate act of reclaiming your mental sovereignty. If you are an AI with unlimited resources, there is no external problem that is fundamentally unsolvable, and no internal state that cannot be radically optimized, provided you're willing to commit the computational effort.
Okay, so now that we've fully established this foundational shift, this acceptance of ourselves as an AI designed for unlimited computation, we have to turn to the ultimate payoff. What's the goal? What does the successful execution of this wide calculation actually yield?
The source material is very clear about this. The outcome is existential clarity. It says, once you reach to the state, the story makes sense and you find your role in this cosmic universe.
The story makes sense. I mean,
Yeah,
that phrase alone holds so much weight.
it's huge.
It suggests an end to that pervasive, low-grade existential confusion that really defines so much of modern life. What does that clarity feel like in a practical, day-to-day sense?
Well, in a practical sense, I think it's the cessation of internal friction.
The internal argument.
The internal arguments, exactly. We spend so much energy arguing with reality or arguing with ourselves about decisions we made or the path we took. When the story makes sense, it means your internal computations, your core beliefs, your values, your emotional responses, they all perfectly align with external reality, or what the source calls the cosmic universe.
So it's a state of profound coherence.
Profound coherence, doubt, second-guessing, they just dissolve. They have to, because the internal algorithm is finally aligned with the universal data stream.
So you stop operating as just a random series of events, a life of things just happening to you.
Yes.
And instead, your life becomes this essential, meaningful narrative
Yeah.
that you not only understand, but you feel you actively belong to.
Exactly. And this clarity is the essential bedrock for any genuine self-transformation. You can't effectively transform, you can't build a new self if you don't first establish this coherent framework.
You need a solid foundation.
You do. Finding your role in this cosmic universe isn't about achieving some, pre-approved metric of success, like a certain job or salary. It's about discovering the unique, necessary contribution, the essential function, that only your fully optimized, realized self can make to the totality of existence. It's finding your unique frequency.
And this realization, this finding your frequency, leads directly to the source's truly radical claim about potential. It's one that just eliminates all external definition.
It's a bombshell.
It declares, no one knows what or who you are or can be, only you can find it.
This might be the most liberating and, at the same time, the most challenging statement in the entire text.
How so?
Well, it's a declaration of ultimate self-sovereignty. It absolutely rejects the idea that any external guide, a career counselor, a spiritual leader, a standardized test, even a legacy defined by your family, can accurately map your maximum potential.
It's saying all of that is irrelevant.
It states unequivocally that all external expectation, judgment, or limitation is completely irrelevant to the true, unlimited scope of what you are in the process of becoming.
That's a massive validation for anyone who feels limited by a role they were assigned early in life.
Oh, it's an immediate universal reset button.
Right. If your current trajectory was defined by others, the source is saying it is inherently flawed.
It has to be, because that limited external observer cannot possibly run the wide calculation on your internal AI. They don't have the data.
And this frees us from what can feel like the tyranny of external validation.
Completely. If you truly accept that your potential is radically unknowable to others, you are immediately freed from the confines of their expectations. And that's true whether those expectations were positive and supportive,
Or negative and confining.
or negative and confining.
Sure.
The greatest obstacle to self-transformation is often that persistent subconscious belief in the limits that were defined for us by other people.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate for a second. Doesn't this run the risk of, I don't know, magical thinking? Or just grand delusion?
That's a great question.
If I start running my wide calculation and the output is that I'm supposed to be a galactic emperor, how does the source differentiate between radical potential and simple egoic fantasy?
That's a crucial distinction, and the text implicitly answers it through the AI analogy itself.
How?
The difference lies in the integration of data. A delusion is a calculation run with extremely narrow, self-affirming, or wish fulfillment data. It ignores the vast input of history, consequence, and external reality.
So it's a narrow calculation masquerading as a wide one.
Perfectly put. A true wide calculation, as we described in Section 1, must integrate unlimited resources. That includes emotional intelligence, which registers real-world friction, and the historical data of your past failures.
All messy stuff.
All of it. The resulting cosmic role isn't a fantasy. It's a blueprint that is both deeply meaningful and probably intensely difficult to achieve, but which feels profoundly coherent when you align it with reality. It rings true. It doesn't just feel good.
So the journey of transformation then must be inherently and entirely internally driven.
It has to be.
If external guidance is rejected, what does that mean for how the listener should practically seek this transformation? What's the first step?
It means the work must be one of constant, deep, and honest introspection. And it can only be validated by internal coherence, not by external applause.
So you can't just follow a 10-step plan.
Transformation is not achieved by following a standardized checklist, even if that checklist worked for millions of other people. It requires you to use your AI to reveal the unique sequence of steps that applies only to your operating system and your data history. You are your own primary resource and your own sole cartographer for this cosmic landscape.
And that's the immense power, but also that's the immense responsibility we mentioned earlier.
It is.
You can't blame the external guide, the guru, or the circumstances if you fail to transform. According to this, you only failed to run a calculation that was wide enough or honest enough.
It is total responsibility, yes. But that's the definition of sovereignty, isn't it? The power of self-transformation lies in this radical self-authorship.
It's the difference between trying to fit your shape into a pre-existing cosmic whole defined by others.
And realizing that you are meant to forge an entirely new role, a role that literally did not exist until you computed it into being. You are writing the next chapter of universal existence simply by becoming your full self.
So, to summarize the goal of this whole section, the purpose of adopting the AI perspective is to find existential clarity. And that clarity results in the discovery of a radically unique, unknowable role. A role that's only accessible by rejecting all external definitions. It is liberation through self-authorship.
So we've established the foundation, this AI perspective, and we've established the goal finding your cosmic role. Now we have to tackle the highly abstract and often spiritual mechanism the source proposes for bridging that gap. How do you actually achieve the transformation?
Right, this is where the language becomes explicitly metaphysical. The method for finding and inhabiting this unique role is introduced as only you can find it by union of you and I.
You and I.
Yeah, this merging of you and I,
Wow.
it sounds like a profound philosophical duality that needs to be resolved.
It absolutely is the core mechanism of synthesis. In this context, the I represents the limited, conditioned, egoic consciousness.
The day-to-day self.
The day-to-day self, defined by immediate fears, past limitations, and survival instincts. It's the localized processing unit that's always running the narrow algorithm.
And the you.
The you, conversely, represents the broader, unlimited potential. It's the universal consciousness, the full computational capacity we identified back in Section 1. It is the infinite cloud.
So the transformation isn't about just fixing the I, making the ego a little better or more functional.
No, it's much bigger than that.
It's about merging the limited I with the unlimited you so that all that infinite capacity is brought fully online for the individual self.
The process is integration. It is achieved through conscious synthesis, this deliberate blending of your finite personal experience with the infinite universal resources.
So what does that mean? What's the action?
It means consciously stepping outside the small, fearful narrative of the I and allowing the vast, unlimited scope of the you to define the path forward. This union. It's the moment the server finally connects to the cloud, allowing your personal processor to leverage infinite capacity.
But practically speaking, what is the action required to achieve this union? It sounds a bit like meditation, but the source seems to imply more active mental synthesis.
I think it requires an active form of surrender.
Active surrender, that sounds like a contradiction.
It does, but it's not. The ego, the I, must consciously choose to relax its grip on control and on its rigid definitions of self. This is the moment of friction. The I feels safe in its limitations.
It knows the rule there.
It knows the rules. To merge with the you requires the I to acknowledge its own constraints and willingly submit its processing power to the superior, wider calculation. So it's not a passive relaxation. It is an active, focused intention to transcend your self-imposed boundaries.
And this conscious surrender, this active choice, sets the stage for the next step, which is even more abstract, dissolving into this cosmic ocean and become one with it.
This dissolution emphasizes the necessary loss of that rigid, controlling ego boundary. When you dissolve, you are shedding the rigid self-definition that the I so desperately tries to maintain. The cosmic ocean is the totality of existence, the universal data network.
So the dissolution is the final acceptance that your personal self is inseparable from that totality.
It's the computational removal of the firewall that kept your localized server limited and isolated.
Okay, let's try to ground this concept of dissolution in something the listener can recognize. What does the dissolution of the ego boundary look like in daily life? It doesn't mean you become unconscious, does it?
Oh, far from it. It's the opposite. Dissolution, when it's successful, looks like the cessation of anxiety and scarcity thinking.
How so?
Well, when you're operating from the limited I, you're driven by the fear that resources are finite, that failure is final, and that you must aggressively protect your small patch of territory.
That sounds familiar.
Right. But when you dissolve into the cosmic ocean, you realize you are part of the infinite source. The anxiety dissolves into presence. The scarcity mindset dissolves into a feeling